Hi everyone, my name is Sean Tusi and I'm part of Glo3D team. In this video, we're going to go over a Glo3D, what we call Dealer Plus Solution, where we'll take you through a 360 virtual tour walkaround, the entire photography of the exterior of the car, as well as doing a panoramic photography. So for the panoramic section, you would need to have a 360 camera. You can use Ricoh, you can use Insta360 or any other 360 camera, where our recommendation is Insta360. You also need a monopod. It could be really something around $20, $30 in North America. We could just purchase it from Amazon. If you're watching it and you happen to be in North America, you could also buy this. But also check out our website. We do have some links that we recommend if you would like to purchase it. With that said, we're going to start. So as I mentioned, we are going to go through the capture process. Before this, if you're a dealership, if you're a photographer, you would need to go through the settings and complete the settings with your client, or if you are actually using it yourself, and go through what you would like to capture, what you would like the staff to do. One of the biggest advantages we have is that you could decide in what order you would like to capture the photos. You could also change the order you would like to display them, and that's how it's going to get sent to your inventory management. You could also decide what thumbnail or first frame you would like to have and send to your inventory management. So for all of that, we have a separate video that will go into all the settings that you require to set up in more detail. We're going to put the link somewhere in this video. We're also going to put it in the description of this video, so feel free to check that out. With that said, we're going to start. So this is the home screen when you log in, and for now I'm going to put these two in my pocket. I'll start press. So the first thing is to start the VIN number. We're going to use the VIN number to extract information about your car. We're going to use it for different video generation, photo generation, syncing it to your inventory management. It's a SUV. And now it says to start from this side. So when you do the walk around, the height of the lens, wherever this lens is, you want it to be at almost at the ceiling of the vehicle you are capturing the walk around. So if it is, let's say, a very high SUV, or if it's a super truck, so you might have to actually hold it like this as you walk around. Or if you're doing SUVs around here, if you're doing a sport car, so the camera might be height here. So always see where that height is for this SUV's here. So that's where my chin is. And most of the cars, that height would work, and then a little bit lower if you're doing it with let's say a crossover or sedan car. If you're doing the sport car, you might have to capture it like this. So this angle helps to have a better preview, the better look of the car overall, especially when we put it on the standard backgrounds we have. So while it's simple, it is also very important to comply with it. We also have on the top right, we have the lens you would use. You could set this in the setting, but our recommendation is if you do have enough room, go with the wide angle. The problem with the wide angle is you need to have more distance from the car, but if it is not able, and you do have the option of ultra wide, which is, I don't have a lot of space, I'm going to use ultra wide for it, and the result will still be very good. So on the middle, we're looking at what direction I have to move. On the lower left, you're looking at the position of the camera versus the car, and here the exposure, which is how much brightness you have. Most of the time is an automatic, but you could also set it to manual or change the number. So the higher the number is, so as you see, the exposure changes. So the lower it is, the lighter it becomes. The higher it is, the darker and lighter, and then the automate will automatically do the capture. So it says capture. So really, you don't have to line it up. And I'll say go. So I'm keeping it around the ceiling height. The only rule is try to keep this, if you can, a straight line, and also have the car in the screen at all time. Other than that, there is really no specific rule. Just see the car in the screen at all time. That's the only rule you have to follow. It doesn't have to match to the outline. And I'm doing the walk around, and I'm keeping it around. And once you come back to your original location, it's going to stop. If after the finishing you will see the result and you have a bumpy floors, or for whatever reason the person who does the photography, you see like some up and down, a lot of changes in the angle, it might be a good idea to try the same capture with the gimbal. But you should get a very good result without it. So our recommendation is try it without a gimbal, see what the result is. If you're happy with it, then you just continue using it. Next is overall photos. So I set it up for low point. So typical photo that's taken by professional photographers, when you're doing the photography, typically they get it from a lower point, which makes the car look more majestic and look nicer and more professional. And plus, since you've done the capture through the ceiling when we did the walk around, now that you would to do the overall photos, which has a much higher quality of capture, then it's a good idea to do them at the handle height. In the setting, there is an option where you don't do the overall photography, and we're going to use the photos from the walk around. But if you want to have a much higher quality and have a dedicated photography for certain angles, then we do recommend to turn on the overall photo. It adds about 2 to 3 minutes for your overall photography timing, but we think it's worth the quality that you will get, and it helps the presentation of the car, because then you have a walk around for a higher angle, and then you have dedicated exterior photos from the lower angle that creates an overall better experience for your customers. So we start with low point, keep the camera. So the low point standard is that you typically want to be a little bit lower than the door handle. So wherever the lens is, you want it to be slightly lower than this. And so that's different if you have, let's say, a huge truck, or if you have a, let's say, Ferrari, right? So the height would be very different. So our recommendation is door handle a little bit lower than the door handle. And in this case, that means we want to have the camera somewhere here. If you're doing super sport car, like let's say Ferrari or Lamborghini, what we'd recommend is that instead of using the door handle, use the rim height of the tire. And that will capture the entire majestic look that you would like to get from your sport car. So if it is a super sport car, use this. If you have an average sedan or SUV or crossover, whether it's luxury or not, just use that a little bit lower than the door handle. For any other car, that would give you your low point. We also have a high point if that's the standard of photography you do. And again, the high point would be where the ceiling is. So for ceiling, the high point is where the ceiling or the roof of the car is. The low point for most of the cars is a little bit lower than the handle, which is sort of a belly button high. And for super sport cars that are very short, you want to do this to capture that majestic look. So for here, I'm going to start from the other side. So I'm going to use ultra wide. Also, this is another thing very important. If you do have enough room, especially for the overall photos, I do recommend to use wide lens or the standard lens, because that's the lens in a phone that has the highest quality, and overall it will give you the best. If you don't have, just from the top right, you could change the lens. But for this tutorial, I'm going to use the wide. I also chose the low point, so I'm going to use this, and I'm going to just take it like this. So if you live in an area that there's a lot of snow, there are days that are very cold, we do have a voice command feature that will take you through the entire process from the point that you want to open the app all the way to the part that you finish it and capturing the next part. You could just do that with voice command. So you can have nice gloves. Today is not a bad day, but you can have a nice thick gloves going out there and do the photography without even touching your mobile or screen of your mobile. So that's another feature that we will have a video tour. We're going to make a video tour for it, put it in so you guys see how, make a tutorial for it. So you guys see how it works. But for now, I'll go next. So the next one is the angle 45. So these overall photos, you don't have to use go to the same. Like this is the most common angle. There's a low point. I'm gonna hold it sort of a lower, and you don't have to exactly line up with the green area. This is what we figured out is the most common for the photography. But let's say if your standard is to do it, I'm going to show you in the next one, is to do it like exact 45 or show more of the front than the side. You could absolutely do that. We will automatically adjust that later on. So I'm going to have a low point, the overall photo capture. So we do it here. Then we have the back. You also can change the order of the capture in the setting. So if the standard of your office is to your dealership is to do a certain way of capturing, you could absolutely do that. And I've showed you this here. What I was talking about, well, the guideline says like this. If the standard is that you like to do it like this, let's say, right? In your dealership, showing mostly the back or showing exactly 45, or showing it this way, you could do any of that. Our system is smart enough to understand the correct angle and set it up correctly in the background when it gets to that point. So now we're going to do one more from that angle. Again, you can change the order you capture it based on what makes more sense. We're going to do capture, and then I go to next. We're going to have one from the front. And I believe our team has moved this around because I think the default nicely take you like nice step by step. So and I have this one, which I believe, so we have maximum is 8 photos, which you could turn off. You don't have to take 8 photos based on what your standard is. You could have a different number. Now we go to the exterior photos. On the top right, you could actually adjust the lens you want to change that if you like. You could here zoom in if you like, and here you could adjust the brightness if you would like to change that. You could also set it up as a default lens so that every time that you do the capture, it would just use that default lens for that camera, which speeds up the overall capture. So I'll do the overall captures here. We do the roof. We do the trunk. So now we start with panoramic photos. So now that's the time to take the overall panoramic photos. And the way it would work is that first connect to the Wi-Fi that this generates, connect your phone to that Wi-Fi. So that's how these two get connected. And then you could see the actual photo that this lens captures through this phone. So it has two lenses on both sides, so it's going to just do one shot. So the advantage of this over some of other solution that actually you put the phone and it moves around is that the speed is much higher because it's just one shot, right? You don't have to sit and wait for this to go all around. So with that said, we're going to go back to the setting. So I go to Wi-Fi, but then I'm going to turn this on. So I'll turn this on. And when you turn on these cameras, so it will show in the list of your Wi-Fi, it will show the available Wi-Fi for this camera. And typically the password for them is the serial number at the back. So we wait a little bit to boot up. So now when you will see we can have the camera, we'll see, you see the blue button blinking means the Wi-Fi. And now if you look at it here, you will see that we have this option. So we select it. Because I've already had this camera connected to my phone, I believe it did not ask for me for the password. It says there's no internet, which is correct because it is connected to this. Now I'm going to come back here and do a stand panorama. I'm going to use Ricoh Theta, which is what we're using today. And as you can see, we have the actual view of the camera here. So now I'm going to connect my monopod. So we do recommend use a monopod, and the reason is something that has a height. And the first panorama that I'm going to capture, as you see on the top, is front seat. So I'm going to go here. Let me just close the door. And you always want to, for all these cameras, where you see the actual button is the back of the camera. So you always want the front to the front. And you always want to have a monopod that has certain height because you want the camera to sit where the eye of the person is, to get the view closest to as if the person is sitting behind the wheel and have the best experience. So I have this. It's a simple monopod. I'll put it around here. And if you want to, let's look at it, how it looks. So that's the setting. So that's the height you want to put. Typically, that's the best spot. And once we did that, so we're going to close the door and do a quick capture. That's it. Very easy connection, very easy setup. We're going to wait a little bit. The phone is going to show you that it is in progress. And once the progress is done, it will show you this screen. So it's very important that we do the zoom in. So you can like sort of pinch and zoom it in. The steering wheel and having the thing on center, like having the center of the dashboard, are the only two important things. So as long as you get that slightly right, then you're good, and then you place next. Then now we have the rear seat. Obviously, you can decide if you would like to offer a 360 panoramic view for the rear seat. If not, you could turn that off in the sitting. I will not ask you for this. Because it is an SUV, it has a third row, so maybe it might be a good idea. I'm going to make this a little bit taller. And since my monopod is a little bit short, I'm going to just put it on top of this here. There we go. And obviously if you have a sort of a taller monopod, you can just put it on the seat. Now I can see the back view and I press capture. So now it does rear seat. So while it's processing, we do have the option of undercarriage. So typically car auctions might be more interested in undercarriage. A typical dealership, you may not be interested in doing that. So now I'm sort of happy with the result. If you look at it, it's a nice view. So I'll say next, I'll close it, and we're done. So that's that. So I'm going to put this aside for now until the next car, and I start the interior captures. So we have the front dashboard, and we have ultra wide. I'm going to do this capture, but you don't necessarily have to do this if you're doing the panoramic, because the panoramic would automatically generate this. But if you'd like to have a dedicated photo, obviously you could do these. I'm going to put these here for now. Now I'm going to do the back. The same thing for the back. You could turn that off in the setting if you're doing the panoramic. Now I have entertainment center. We have the rear view mirror. So you could skip. If there's something that you don't like to capture for any reason, you could simply skip it. And here we have the steering wheel control. And here we have this. So if you see something, you could turn them off in the setting and have the feature. So next future captures, you will not see it. But if, let's say, there's something that car, for example, sunroof, a car may not have it, you can just simply skip that. For example, we don't have driver's seat control in this one. Some other cars have it, so I'll just simply skip it. And then I will have door panels. If I want to change, let's say, the lens, let's say to wide lens, I can easily do it here. Here we don't have that, we don't have this. Now passenger door. Just do the wide angle and capture. So now this is the last screen. This is where in the setting, if you have done correct setting during the onboarding by your management, you should not touch this and you should just say save. But if you would like to do, for any reason, last minute changes, this would be the spot where you would just save and you're done. We will come back showing you guys how this works after this in our entire ecosystem of Glo3D and how we're going to generate a virtual tour, video tour, complete set of photos, social media sharing, all with just the, I believe, 10 or 15 minutes we invested in the entire capture. Thank you so much for watching.
So once we're done with the capture, one very important point to remember is that you need to have your phone open so that the upload process is complete. As you see here, if you close the app, it will not complete the process. So you might finish all the cars and just close the app, and tomorrow you don't see any of them processed because there wasn't enough time to upload the process. As you see here, it's going through the upload process. And once the upload is fully complete, then the server, you can close it, because at that time the server is going to start processing it and then making it available online. So the best practice really is to have a dedicated phone for your car photography. And once you're done, during the day, you don't have to wait each one complete to go to the next one. You could go, I believe, up to 40 captures, and then at the end of the day, just connect it to a power line. Just leave it open, make sure we take it out of going to sleep automatically, so it's always on, and the next day you come in, it's fully charged, everything is uploaded, and to your website, to your inventory management. So this is a very important factor. Now we're gonna let this be uploaded, and then we'll go over the results from today's capture.
Okay, so now once we're done the capture, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes to complete the process, and that's where we would see here. So this is the actual complete 360 model that has about 24 frames, and as you can see, we have all the other items that have the 360 photo and the hotspot marked, and we also have a complete set of gallery photos. But the gallery photos are from the low point captures, as you can see, because we did the low point captures, and we have the photos here based on that. And here we would have the exterior photos, and here we have the 360, and here we have the actual interior shots where you could move around, see it from different angles, and this is the zoom in version of the capture. And so we also replaced the floors, as you can see. So if it is crack, rain, or snow, so it's going to actually have a final nice clean look like that it is on a virtual turntable. For this one, because as you can see, we have some trees, so it's nice to have the background that also resembles some trees, so it looks much more realistic when you will have something like this on the virtual turntable. And there are ways that you could edit it. Let's say if you have a bad frame, or by accident you cut a portion of this, a very easy way is to just come to whatever frame that is not good, and you could just remove that one frame like this, delete current frame. Very, very easy. So you don't have to recapture the process, which is a very huge advantage of our platform comparing to any other platform. You could also go through the setting and change a lot of things and make everything standard, including the background, including how the edge looked like, including what the floor looked like, including the shape, the color of all these hotspots, which we have a separate video that is going to go over that. We'll put a link in the description. We'll put a card or a link somewhere around this video, which you guys can watch and learn that. And we do recommend that, because the setting is probably what you need to do before even you get out there and start doing the photography. With that said, I hope you liked the presentation. Oh, one more thing. I'm going to actually, just to show you the quality, so you can see it. So obviously the actual photos and photo galleries have a higher quality, as you can see here, but these are pretty good quality. But then we also have the actual individual photos that they have even extra high quality, and we try to fit them to the page as much as we can to have the biggest screen. And we also, as you can see, remove the background even on these pieces, so you can see the background of the photo. So that's why we take you through the overall photo again, so that the 8 photos, the 2, 4, 6, 8 photos that are from 8 angles, which again you could change them, just have 5 or 4. You could decide how many you have. They're ultra high quality and ultra high resolution. Even that, you still have a very, very good resolution on this spin. And what's nice is that on the actual spin, you have the ceiling height, so you sort of have an upper hand view, as you can see here. But then when you come to the gallery photos, you have a sort of lower, so it looks more luxurious, it looks more grand, especially if you're doing the captures from, let's say, angles like this. These shots are sort of more of like a money shot, and they look a lot nicer. And that's why if you guys can spend that, let's say 12 minutes, I believe is the average, 12 to 15 minutes per car, we definitely recommend you guys go through this process. Thank you for watching.